Hey, what's up guys? It's Shamrocked here. This is a guide for Farseer going into Season 3 of The War Within, which is patch 11.2. I'm going to take a pivot from what I normally do. I normally have these like really lengthy in-depth guides where I sort of explain everything. This is just going to be a quick how to play Farseer. I may do a more in-depth guide in the future where I sort of go through the talents and the different builds that I would play, but this is just going to be an extremely high level overview of like this is how you play for anybody who's new to the spec. So I know a lot of people are putting Resto Shaman on the top of their tier list going into next season. Some people even think there might be a meta for Resto Shaman. I'm not quite sure if that's going to be accurate yet, but we'll see. But most of these people are also talking about the Farseer hero tree. That's not to say Totemic might not also be able to compete. I actually personally think Totemic might end up being better on the high end. However, I say that very like hesitantly. I have no idea. And also right now the throughput for Farseer is looking insane. So I don't know if you'll be able to beat that. But anyways, lots of people are putting it in their meta tier lists. So I assume we'll get a lot of newcomers who've maybe never played the spec or just unsure. So there are two main things that you need to know when you play Farseer. First is Unleash Life. So using the Unleash Life button is going to summon an Ancestor, and with the right talents, specifically Heed My Call, which makes Ancestors last longer, and you can just copy this talent build if you want. I'm going to put it in the notes for this video. But anyways, Unleash Life is going to summon an Ancestor for 15 seconds, actually 16 seconds, I believe. And the cooldown for Unleash Life is 15 seconds. So if you use Unleash Life on cooldown, which you absolutely should if you're playing Mythic Plus as Farseer, you are always going to have one Ancestor up. So that's rule number one for Farseer, is you put Unleash Life in an easy to access button that you can click all the time and you hit it on cooldown. I would also suggest that you maybe get a weak aura that tracks when Unleash Life is off cooldown so that you are always using it. In terms of like Unleash Life itself as a spell, as a quick guide, I'd say just completely ignore it. Don't matter. It doesn't matter really what heal you use after you press this button for Mythic Plus. Once again, the main goal is to summon an Ancestor. So that is why you were clicking this on cooldown. Once again, if I do a guide in the future where we go into like more specifics on how to play or how to be good or some tips for the higher end, we'll talk about this a bit more. But right now, once again, rule number one for Farseer is hit this button on cooldown just to summon an Ancestor. That's really why you're doing it. Next is Ancestral Swiftness. So Ancestral Swiftness is going to make your next cast instant, which is like benefit number one. But the main benefit, and which is why this is number two in our like guide for how to play Farseer, is it is also going to summon an Ancestor. So if you're in it, Ancestral Swiftness is on a 30-second cooldown and Unleash Life is on a 15-second cooldown. So if you are pressing both on cooldown, you will basically cycle between having two Ancestors when you're able to press both and having one Ancestor when you're just able to press Unleash Life. In other words, every 15 seconds, you're going to be chilling with one Ancestor, and every 30 seconds, you're going to be chilling with two Ancestors, right? Very easy. What also makes this a little bit different for this tier compared to other tiers is that the tier set bonus for Farseer is that your Ancestral Swiftness is going to summon another Ancestor when you click it, and that one is going to last for 20 seconds. So putting it all together, you have one Ancestor from Unleash Life that is going to last 15 seconds. You have one Ancestor from Ancestral Swiftness that is going to last 10 seconds. And then you have another Ancestor from the tier bonus, which is also with Ancestral Swiftness, that is going to last for 20 seconds. So if you hit Unleash Life and Ancestral Swiftness at the same time in Season 3 with a 4-set tier bonus, you're going to get 3 total Ancestors. One is going to last for 20 seconds, one is going to last for 10 seconds, and one is going to last for 15 seconds. So for 10 seconds, you will have 3 Ancestors. For 15 seconds, you will have 2 Ancestors. And then theoretically, for 5 seconds, you would only have 1. But because you're hitting Unleash Life on cooldown, you are going to basically run 5 seconds over with 2 Ancestors for 2 Ancestors at 20 seconds. And then you are stuck with 1 Ancestor for 10 seconds while, you know, Unleash Life is coming off of cooldown. All right. So I know that was a little bit fast and complicated, but really the basics of it is just hit these 2 buttons on cooldown and blast. That's pretty much it. In terms of like people might be thinking like, wait, should I be holding Ancestral Swiftness? Like, when do I press it? I would say if you're doing like low to mid-level content, just hit these suckers on cooldown. It doesn't matter. Just keep your ancestors up, have the most ancestor uptime, enjoy yourself, have fun. If you're playing high-end mythic content, you are probably going to be holding Ancestral Swiftness at certain points in expectation for like oncoming or incoming damage from boss mechanics, or maybe you want to blast some DPS. It doesn't matter. That is for the high-end play. Once again, if you're just dabbling with the spec, I would say hit these two on cooldown, and you will learn very quickly when you're powerful and when you're not powerful, and you will be able to sort of curate it from there. In terms of what you're hitting when you're playing Farseer, for healing, three main buttons you're going to be pressing are Riptide, Healing Surge, and Chain Heal. Those are basically your three buttons. You don't really have to worry about anything else. Healing Wave is nice, but it's not needed. You're not going to have mana issues, so Healing Surge is what you can press all the time for single target healing. Riptide, you should basically just keep on cooldown. Try to keep it on your entire group so that everybody is benefiting from the Deluge buff, which is 15% increased healing for people who have Riptide on them. And then Chain Heal is like your group heal, which is like you're just going to be pressing in between Riptides. The one interaction I will mention is Coalescing Water. So every 2 Chain Heals you cast, your Riptide is going to be buffed up by 75% per Chain Heal. So if you stack this up, you're going to have 150% powerful Riptides. And then also keep in mind your Riptides are also they're making your ancestors heal as well. So with this class, rotating, or with this spec, if you're rotating Chain Heals and Riptides, you're going to be rotating between very powerful Chain Heals and very powerful Riptides, especially if you're keeping your ancestors on cooldown, which you will be because you're going to be pressing Unleash Life whenever you can and Ancestral Swiftness whenever you can as well. Okay, so that's Riptide and Chain Heal. And then, like I said, Healing Surge is just what you use when you need a powerful single target heal, like on a tank or on somebody who has like a dot or some other damage mechanic on them. Okay, so 3 main healing spells: Riptide, Healing Surge, and Chain Heal. Just cycle between those and you will be good. And then one more question I know a lot of you will have is, what about Healing Rain? I don't want to cast Healing Rain. I'm used to casting instant Healing Rains with my totemic build, and I don't want to cast it for Farseer. Well, I have great news for you. You don't have to cast it. You can literally never cast Healing Rain with these builds, and you're totally fine. You should still take Healing Rain because you need it for the Deluge talent, but in terms of actually pressing it, you don't need to. I would suggest putting it on your bars because it does activate the Deluge buff, which you can use for high-end content if you know incoming damage, like incoming boss damage mechanics are about to happen, and it could help you out there. But if you, once again, are just trying to, like, you want to learn the spec, or you just like don't want to think about it, you can take Healing Rain off your bar and never press it and you'll be fine. In terms of damage, Chain Lightning Ancestors are extremely powerful right now, so like just one global of an Ancestor Chain Lightning is going to be better than your entire Acid Rain duration. And in terms of healing, it doesn't do any, so you don't need to worry about it. So once again, Healing Rain, just don't worry about it. Take it off your bar if you want to. If you're playing high-end content, then you can use it, but other than that, don't worry about it. In terms of DPS, Chain Lightning is extremely buffed with Ancestors. So you basically, if you have 2 or more Ancestors active, you should be casting Chain Lightning. If you have 1 Ancestor, you should be casting Lava Burst. One small thing I'll mention is Master of the Elements makes your Healing Surges more powerful every time you cast Lava Burst, stacking up to 2 times. So sometimes you'll want to prioritize casting Lava Burst over Chain Lightning just for this buff, but those are some of like those master tips that I was talking about. If you're just going for the highest number of DPS that you can do, you should be hitting Chain Lightning with 2 or more Ancestors up, and you should be hitting Lava Burst with 1 Ancestor up. And finally, the last thing I'll talk about is Flow of the Tides versus Ancestral Reach. I would say if you are playing low to mid tier content, or you're just starting the spec, or you don't want to think about anything too much, just pick Ancestral Reach. That's just going to make all of your Chain Heals naturally more powerful by 8%, and they're going to hit your entire group. If you want to play a little bit more advanced, you can play Flow of the Tides. So Flow of the Tides, if you target Chain Heal at somebody with a Riptide, it's going to consume that one Riptide, only that one, and buff the entire Chain Heal by 30%. So you can grasp probably the concept of having so many Riptides based on the Farseer hero tree. You can basically keep Riptide on your entire group and then use those Riptides as ammunition for very powerful Chain Heals. It is a little bit more advanced because you have to think about who you're casting Chain Heal on a little bit more, and you want to be watching and obviously trying to hit people with Riptides that are almost expired. So like I said, if you don't want to do that or you don't want to think about that, or you're just starting out and you maybe want to learn the ropes first, I would say pick Ancestral Reach. From my testing on PTR, Farseer is like, it's very powerful regardless. Like it's not lacking in power. So it's not like you need the extra 30% buffed chain heals. You probably maybe do for like really high end content, but the 8% buff chain heals are totally fine. And it makes for a much more relaxing playstyle if you don't need to like watch for the riptides that you need to consume as ammunition. Okay, so the build that I'm probably going to post, I'll post both. I'll post a flow build, which is this one, and then I will also post an Ancestral Reach build, which is this one. And then when I was doing my testing, I also wanted some points into Wave Speaker's Blessing because having the riptides that last a little bit longer was better for Deluge. But once again, I don't want to get into that because that is like more complex. So we'll just keep it like this. So this is the Reach build, and then the flow build is the same thing, just with flow instead of Reach. Okay, and that is it. So like I said, let's go through the basics one more time before I hang up this video. You have 2 ways to summon ancestors: Unleash Life and Ancestral Swiftness. Keep these 2 buttons on cooldown and you are already on your way to being an amazing Farseer player. In terms of healing, you have 3 main spells. You have Riptide, which you want to keep on cooldown if you can. Spread it out throughout your group. You have Chain Heal, which you want to use when you have AoE healing. And you have Healing Surge, which you want to use when you have single target healing. Very easy. In terms of the different kind of chain heals you can do Ancestral Reach, which is powerful chain heals all the time, or Flow of the Tides, which is powerful chain heals only when you're targeting them at people with Riptide, and it's a little bit harder than playing Ancestral Reach. And yeah, that's it. So look for more guides in the future. We'll go a little bit more in depth on like what the talents do and maybe how to play better. But if you're just starting out for Farseer, just remember those main tips and you'll already be better than most players out there. All right, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.